All right. So can anyone hear me right now? Well, I can see you. All right. So can anyone hear me right now? Oh no, this is going to be boring.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Well, I can see you.
Okay. But I will share my screen.
Hear me right now?
No, yeah. Hold on. So I will share my slides. So I think I will do this. I will share my screen. So can you see my screen? Oh.
Yes.
So can you see our conversation here, right? Let me. Can you? Yeah. Okay. I hear somebody talking. Who was? Kate? Or who? Catherine? Or who? No, it's like share screen. I need to. Okay. It's working good. I was able to hear you very good. I don't know if you can hear me. Let's try it here. Yeah, I heard myself. I heard there, like, I don't know, there was somebody else who had the audio on. Okay, thank you. I don't know if you can hear me. I will try. Let's see. Okay, can you hear me good? Try to unmute yourself to see if there is, again, that echo. I don't know if I can unmute you. No, I don't think so. But I don't know, here I see myself in the, okay. I see myself, I don't see my screen. I don't know if you see my screen or you see myself. No, I think should be the screen, yeah. Okay. So okay, I will wait for you. I cannot hear you. Can you unmute yourself, Joe? Joy? Do you need me to talk louder or it's good like this? If I am mute, just keep repeating. But okay. Somehow it's like some microphone there or something. I don't know if you have some speakers next to your computer and maybe that is making the echo. Maybe that the TV has audio and your computer and is picking up the audio. Okay. Maybe if somebody has a question and you cannot unmute yourself for the questions, maybe they can ask in Slack if you have this problem. Because I have my iPad with the Slack next to me, so. Okay, perfect. So there are only a couple of okay, perfect. Okay, so I will wait you to let me know. You can even let me know in the CIC students when we start, if you like. In this way I can switch to other channel. Okay, thank you. Okay. Perfect. I got it. Thank you. So you can see my screen. Perfect. I'll put it already like this. Okay, I'll take this away. How do I put this away? Okay. Problem is, I'll not be able to find it anymore. How do I take my video? I don't want my camera. Can you take my video or my camera off? Or how do I do it? Yeah. Stop video. Okay, perfect. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. I guess I will start. I hope so everybody can hear me. If you can give me a feedback in Slack. Oh, okay. Joy, can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Thank you, Kate, for your feedback. I'm waiting for the class to see if they can hear me so we can start. Can you hear me now? Hello, everybody. Can you hear me? Maybe that there is a problem with the audio because they are not answering. And my audio is on. And earlier you was able to hear me.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Joy? Joy?
Try switching this out.
Now I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, you can hear. Okay, you can hear me, but no, I can't hear you.
Before you could hear me, and it's always like this.
Are you muted on your Zoom?
No, I'm not muted. No. I can try to mute and unmute. Okay. Oh.
Okay, let's try that now.
Can you hear me now?
There we go. Okay.
Okay, maybe you muted me because in my end those are muted. Okay. So now everybody can hear me, right?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you again. Well, I think you might remember me from when I came in class by the end of May, when I talk about my experience with Albany Can Code Bootcamp after our graduation. So today I will talk with you since you are almost there. Next week, even your class will graduate. So I would like to congratulate you all for the big step that you took, and you did it. You are almost there. I can't wait to see all your projects. So of course, after this big journey that you have almost 24 weeks, right? You will start your research for a job. And today we will talk about your dream job and why I choose to call it a dream job. Maybe because I'm a dreamer and all my life I had dreams and I achieved them. There are people that they have only one dream and they make it bigger, but I had many dreams. So sometimes you achieve that dream and you want another one and so on. So I think even you have in your mind what it will be your dream job. Of course, it will not be someone to tell you to go this way or the other way, but you will figure it out somehow. I want only to give you some examples how I surf in my life in different countries and how I found job. It was not easy, of course, but I would like you to learn few things from my experience and think how you can apply it in your for your experience. So, 1 second.
Linda?
Yeah?
Can you just speak just a little bit closer to the mic?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Perfect, right there.
Okay, perfect. So from next week, I think everybody will have in their mind this picture. You will think of interviews, you will start your job research, you will write your goals, and so on. You will have your graduation, you will have your resume ready, you will start to apply for jobs if you didn't start ready, and so on. And of course, you might say, okay, I know what's my dream job, right? Because you already know that you would like to pursue the career of a developer. This is your goal after you finish this coding bootcamp. But you might say, okay, but I don't have experience, and everybody is looking for somebody who has working experience, right? So I would like here to bring some one of my story when I was 16 years old and in my hometown in Romania. They published this news that they will open a new radio and TV station in my town. And of course, like every young kid, you want to work in radio television. I had this dream, and I was talking with my friend and say I will go to work there. Of course, I didn't have a degree in journalism. I didn't finish my high school and so on. So I didn't have any experience. So I started to call them. Of course, every time I was calling them, they will tell me that they don't have any position open and so on. So every day it was not easy because every time I was calling in, they will say no. So after a while, they got tired of me calling in every time to ask if I could have a job interview with them because I wanted to work there. So in the end, they says, okay, come in and we will have a chat. So after that, I got the job. Of course, I tried to make it shorter because we don't have so much time tonight. So in the end, I got the job, and was a beautiful experience. I worked as a journalist for about 5 years. And this experience tells you that even if you don't have experience in your job, you can, but you have to be perseverant. You have to learn from others. I didn't know to be a journalist, but I was looking at others, how they was doing it, and I was doing it myself. I was preparing myself at home. I was registering myself, listening myself, and see how I'm doing, and next day I will be ready. So try to work in other side projects. If you have, after you finish the coding bootcamp, if you have friends or family or someone who needs a website or little graphic or something, try to do it and add it in your portfolio. You should all start to have your own portfolio online. In this way, the employers, they will want to see your portfolio. Also, your GitHub account should have some activity where others, they will go to see it. So be perseverant, work on you, and you will see the results later on.
But now you know.
So now you know. Okay, so there is another story. I don't know if any one of you knows the story of the elephant bound to a rope on a peg. So you know that the elephants, they always stay in the place where they live since they are born. If you take them to a circus place, they put them in with a little rope when they are little elephants. As they grow, that rope is always the same rope when they was little elephants. But the problem is when they was little, they could not break that rope. They try so hard and they could not break it. As they grow, they was used that they could not break it and they will not try anymore. So try to break that rope and free yourself and find the way to achieve your dream job, because it's waiting there for you. So here is only an example, and I will send you in Slack my slides after my speech. Here are some of the famous failures, and I think some of them you might know already. So here the lesson is, if you have never failed, you've never tried anything new. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes. Try again, fix it. Life is just like in code. You try and you make it better. So after 2 years of college in computer science, I decided that I have to change my life. So how I understood that I have to change it, I had a dream. Actually, my dream was to come in the United States when I was a teenager, because I grew up with all these movies for teenagers. So, but it was not easy. So I moved in Italy. And of course, when you move in a new country, it's not only you have to find a job. The problem is you have to learn the language, you have to learn the culture, and after maybe you will find a job. So as you know, life, it's like a travel. You need a map. You have to create your own map and you have to follow. So of course, when you move in a new country, they say, oh, don't worry, we'll give you a very easy job. So what is this very easy job? Is for you to answer to the phone. Of course, maybe for an Italian or an American, it will be easy to answer to the phone, but not for you that you don't speak that language. So it's hard. You cannot say no because you want to work. So you answer to the phone, you don't understand nothing, and you try to understand and do better next time. So, and after that, even if you say, oh, okay, I did computer science 2 years, but the computer is not anymore in your language, is in another language. So you tell them, you ask something that is in that program, a command, and you don't understand it, to explain it, they will try to teach you to use the computer, even though you know it to use it. So in the end, you will show people that you know. The only one problem, you don't have experience. So all of these things that happens when you learn a new language or a new culture, it's like when you learn to code a new coding language. So you will face same experience I have moving in a new country. It's like when you try to find a new job for yourself. So when I was in Italy, I was not only dealing with the language barrier, but even with job scarcity, and I have to reinvent my life. So a good point for you to start will be always to go to an unemployment office, because they have training available, they have resume, job search tools. This was in my case. Maybe in your case, they will not have training, but they can help you finding maybe some tips or something. I don't know. Always I use it and I find it very helpful for me. So I worked in Italy as a translator interpreter for investigations, secret investigations, civil and criminal court. And after I won a scholarship as a cultural interpreter, and I worked for 7 years for a company as a web developer, web designer, and graphic designer. And by the end, the last 5 years, I worked as a journalist publishing every month articles. As you see, I did a wide variety of jobs, and it was not easy. The one thing that I want to tell you is go out there, search, have contact with people, network. This is the only one way that you will find the job. It's good to apply for jobs. Nowadays, it's so easy. You can apply online all over. It's not a problem. The only one problem, when people see you, it is easier. You might find somebody, you go to a meetup, let's say, and there are people that they work in other companies. They have jobs available, and they meet you, they talk with you, and they can say, oh, you know, we have a position open. Send me your resume. And so this will make it easier for you. So please try to go out there and make people know you, who you are, and find you a job. After 12 years living and working in Italy, it was time for me to change again because I wanted to achieve my dream to come to United States. So this was my teenage dream. So it was very difficult and very scary. And of course, every change creates discomfort. But you have to be strong, and you have to follow your heart, because you did this coding bootcamp to become a coder, to become a developer. So you have to push yourself and show people that even if you don't have experience, you can make things. I didn't have experience for any job that I did, and I did it successfully. So this doesn't mean that if you don't have experience, you cannot get a job. Maybe you can start with an internship or apprenticeships. Now they have available, but please push yourself and convince people that to give you a chance to try. And also try to publish online. Your LinkedIn profile should be very professional. You should publish many things that you are doing, that you are participating in meetups, that you are active. In this way, when the employers will go in your profile, they will see that you are an active person and you do many things in your life, and you are willing to learn and to change things in better. So don't be afraid, be bold, and make a change. So I moved into United States 7 years ago, and of course I had to take everything all over. I took for the third time in my life my driver license, because every time you move in another country, you have to go back to school and learn the language, learn the culture, take your driver license from zero. So, and after I started to volunteer for a while. And because I volunteered, they found me a job to a big corporation here in the United States, where I worked for 4 years as a web developer, web designer, and graphic designer. And when I was volunteering, I was working as an IT, and I was also helping, working as volunteering as a civil and criminal court interpreter and translator, and medical offices, and so on. After that, last year, I became a US citizen. So I decided to start my freelancing career, because I wanted to work for myself. And now it's almost 1 year. But in meantime, it's nice to work for yourself. You have your clients, you take the jobs that you like, you have the holidays when you want, and things like this. The only one problem that I saw from my end, depending, everybody has their vision in life, it was just that I don't like to deal with the taxes. I don't like to deal with the health insurance. I like to do my job. So there are people that are more entrepreneurial, So if you are that kind of person, it will work for you. The problem is I reach a point when I have too much job and I have to handle it. I have to schedule when I work in each project, you have to deal with the deadlines. Of course, this happens even if you have a full-time job. But I reach a point when I says I want to have a remote full-time job because I can concentrate to do what I like and all the other things are taken care by others. So this is my own decision. And yesterday I just signed a pre-contract that it's only part-time for the moment because I started to teach Scratch to kids in school, to code in Scratch to a coding camp. And from September, we are going to work in a full-time contract. So this was my dream. I did all my dreams. First, I wanted to work for myself, but I decided that doesn't work for me. Maybe that works for you. For me, doesn't work because I don't like many other things. So as you know, I am a Google developer group lead here for Capital Region and Women Tech Makers Ambassador. And this changed a lot my life and my experience in general. I'm out there, I meet people, I network, I'm training other people, I'm learning from other people. So I really encourage you to go out there. As you know, I participated to Hack Up State Hackathon and I encourage you to do it. And I did even Free Code Camp Hackathon. I didn't win nothing, I won only in Hack Up State. But I encourage you to do all kind of experiences. And volunteering, it will help you a lot. To me, all my life, I liked to volunteer and I still volunteer. And I don't have time for myself at all. I'm very active, but I like it. So if you find time to, as you know, I'm helping some of you with your projects and on Zoom and things like this. So after you finish and you get a job, remember to give back. So help others to learn when you see that they struggle as you struggle now. So, okay, if you like, you can go to see my portfolio. There are many projects that I created when I was doing Free Code Camp or when I did Albany Can Code or when I was following your class on YouTube. If you have any questions in the meantime, you can start to post them in Slack and I will try to answer them as soon as possible. This is my biography in the Women Tech Makers Ambassador Directory. And as I told you, please join meetups. This will help you a lot. I know we never have time for nothing, but we have to make time if we want to find our dreams, to follow our dreams. So I started, also what can help you is to publish articles or contribute to our open source. I did myself some stuff. I didn't do so much. I'm doing many things. So when you do many things, you can do a little bit of many things. You can do only one thing and make it big, or you can do many things. That's why there are generalists and people that specialize in one thing. So I'm not a specialist in general, I'm a generalist. So everybody finds their way. So your number one enemy will be always your comfort zone. As if you start to go away from your comfort zone, you will start to follow your dreams. If you get stuck in your comfort zone and you feel safe and in control, you will not be able to achieve your dreams. It was not easy for me and it will not be easy for you. So there are some videos, you can watch them. I will send you the links. We don't have time. We are almost running out of time. So you can see on the map I'm born in Romania. I moved in Italy, and after I follow my dreams here. And I speak 4 languages. I did lots of jobs, so I encourage you to try other things. So please volunteer, go to meetups, make your portfolio, prepare yourself, be professional. And I saw that you have many other speakers coming in, giving you a lot of tips on how to be ready for your dream job. Also, this is the picture. Last month I was to North America Google Developer Group Academy, and I'm there next to the Google sign. Going to this meetup gave me this opportunity to be in contact with Google and to have this kind of experience that I will not have if I will be home applying for jobs and waiting for people to answer to my emails. So go out there and you will have lots of experiences, beautiful experiences, friends, and so on. And as I told you, I started to teach Scratch, coding in Scratch to kids, and this is the drawing that they made me the other day, and I wanted to share it with you. And don't forget, every time you make a new step toward your dream job or toward your career, please always celebrate. Celebration, your brain needs to know that you give him I don't find the word. Our brain needs to celebrate, so you have to give them this satisfaction. You need it, and you deserve it. So this was my life experience that I wanted to share with you. I wanted to tell you more, but the time it's what it is. So I try to make it shorter for you. If you have any other questions, please let me know. If not, I will give the microphone, or how we can say here, to Joy to continue the coding class.
Yeah, I think well, if you can hear me, then
yeah,
you should be able to hear anyone asking a question. So does anyone have any questions for Linda?
Okay. If nobody have.
This is Eva. My learning coding was very similar to learning a language.
I didn't hear what she says.
She asked if learning to code was similar to learning a new language.
Exactly. I even wrote an article, but I didn't finish to publish it. Yes, it's the same experience because you will see more you practice. How I learn a language, learning Italian or English, I didn't went to school to learn it. So I listen podcasts, I listen music, I read books, I watch videos with subtitles and so on. So this you can apply it even to coding. You can listen, watch videos. You can watch your videos of your instructors on and on and on, and practice coding until you get the concept. Same thing it's with the language. You cannot remember things. You have to read always. You have to listen. You have to talk. When you will have a job interview, you will have to talk with your interviewers. So try to talk with other people, or pairing with some of your colleagues there in the class, and apply for jobs. Even if you don't get the job, if you get the chance to go in the coding interview, that is like a practice. Even if you don't get that job, but later on, as you practice more, you will get the job. Same with the work and everything. You will get experience on time. But don't be afraid that you don't have experience and you don't get a job. That doesn't work that way. Any other question? Sorry?
Mulțumesc mult.
Mulțumesc mult. Cu plăcere. That is in Romanian. Okay, so I hope I gave you few tips, and I'm really proud of you. I saw all your progress, and I wish you good luck. I will see you next week at your graduation if you don't have any other questions.
Any other questions?
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank
Linda.
you. See you next week. Bye.
Okay, goodbye.
Bye.
All right, so. All right, so I think my screen should be sharing right now. Can you, Linda, can you just confirm in the chat? Hopefully share full screen. Is this sharing? Hopefully this is sharing. Okay. All right, so we're just going to, we'll just take like a 5-minute break, and then we'll do a vote on what we want to work on tonight. Okay, it's a couple options for you. So we'll be right back in 5 minutes. Okay, so we're gonna get started here with a vote on what we want to go over tonight. There's several things we could do. We could just go over some of the same things we've been going over with React. If there's more questions on very specific aspects of React or of like state management, we could also start to delve into some of the things we did not yet implement into the Byte app, like the sorting inside the table, what those types of functions would look like. Or we could talk about, like, say, Webpack. Webpack is the tool that Create React App uses under the hood to bundle all your code together and plaster it up on your screen. So we can dive into that if you want, or we could do a little bit of each. It's really up to everyone here. So, and for those that are remote, you could just type into the chat what your preference is for tonight. Hopefully I can be heard. Okay, someone's typing. Okay, so other elements and Webpack is first vote. Anyone else want to see that? So incorporating some of the elements that we didn't get to in Byte, the Byte application, like sorting in the tables and stuff like that. And also the basics of Webpack, why it's doing what it's doing. So do either of those interest everyone here? Okay, so let me get my notebook computer, all my notes up here. Oh, also what I'm going to do is, I don't know if I did it just yet, but I'm going to share the finished code of Byte as it was developed before I started rebuilding it from scratch with you guys. So I'm going to share that as well, so you can take a look at it. And just pull that up. Just a second. I think what we could do is we can actually walk through on the stream as well some of the finished code. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to pull up that application. And now that I have it on both screens over here, or soon to have it on both screens over here. Okay, so we'll go to Code Sandbox where it's living. Okay, now it wants me to reload. Okay, so this is the finished code for Byte. All our folder structure with all our components and actions, and here's the store. So the store for the finished one was the quick store. We implemented this already. We only implemented the loading of the inventory, but it's basically the exact same. Let me zoom this in a little bit. Everyone see that? Loading shipments or loading a product is essentially the same thing. It's just which endpoint on our backend do we want to fetch this data from, right? So if I wanted to fetch the inventory, I would go to my backend /inventory. If I wanted all the shipments, it's /shipments, and so on and so forth. And I would just return those things back to my store, and it would merge it with state. There's some other things that I'll leave this up. I'll leave the link for this. In fact, I'll just put it in there now. So if anyone wants to follow along without looking at this on my screen. So that's the finished code. Even if you can even fork this repo and modify it and save it under your own, if you wanted to play around with it for like just practicing some of the things we've learned. One of the other things that is also in here is receiving a shipment. So if you remember, inside shipments, there was this button. If you click it, it just says to be implemented in class. What that does is it sends a this sends a put back to the database, back to the JSON server, and it says, hey, put this new updated thing into the database, and that will go ahead and update everything related to what that shipment represented, which was a quantity of product, which would update our inventory quantity on our inventory page. So you can take a look at that to see that pattern as well. It's a little lengthy because it's very just, there is no other backend to this, so I'm doing it all kind of like right here. Excuse me, because JSON server doesn't have, it's not like Express. All it's doing is serving up data for me. But all of this stuff would typically be handled on like an Express backend. All I do is I send the data to the endpoint I want. It'll do all the things for me, update the database, and eventually return me some sort of successful or unsuccessful result. But given that I did not have an Express backend, all the code that would live there lives here. So you get to see it all in one spot. So that's beneficial. Over on, I started too many windows. The table, that's where we had that sorting. We could take a look at this. Do you want me to just kind of start over from scratch or do you want me to walk through the code? I'll leave it to a vote. Code it all. Yeah, just code up just the sorting portion, just to sort the stuff in the table.
Yeah.
Start over? Code it? Yeah, not that. Yeah. So not start completely over. All right, so let me get that on the screen. So let's get to a point where my project is up on the screen. I need to get JSON server running. The application running. Okay. We'll just wait for this to load up. All right, cool. Oh, we got to put our code back the way it was. So if we go over to our header, right now it's just some link that just says shipments. And that's because it did something in app. Oh, right here. We're not using header, that's why. So we'll render header. And there's some other things, of course. Let's see what we've got. Let's clean this all up first here. So navbar, brand, because we're not using that context store anymore, that's why. Let's go into the header. Let's put this back to just the word byte. We're gonna not use this. We don't need this button. Let's see, are we in a working state now? Cool. Go to inventory again. Oh, are we not getting data? Let's fix that. Lesson on refetching data. So right here, we're getting from the use app store. Let's just fetch it all up front. So instead of store, we'll say const data set data equals use state. This is going to be an array of products that are array of inventory. And now we just need to fetch from our backend. And I'm just going to copy that. Now I'll just type it out. So we'll fetch when the component loads. (2001) inventory. Then we're going to get our response, turn it to JSON. And we'll get our data. We'll set data, oops, set data. Store is not defined because it's looking at it here. And there's our data. Okay, so now we're back at the spot where we're getting data from our back end. Now we want to be able to sort this stuff. There are many ways to do that, but inevitably you'll need some sort of sort functionality. And let me just pull up my notes real quick. So we'll do all the sorting inside the table. We don't need to really sort anything outside the table. Inventory is only concerned with, hey, here's this data. I see a table there. Table should handle all the internal sorting of whatever it wants to do. So we'll go into our table component. And right now, there's really not much here. We're just iterating over this data and just showing it on the screen. Zoom in on my other screen so I can see. Is anyone going to be using like tables or sorting data in their tables? I know you're pretty much just going to be a gallery. Are you going to be sorting anything?
No. Well, yeah, I think I am. Oh, sorry.
Okay. So you will be? Okay, so this is useful. I want to make sure that it's going to be useful for you guys. The same type of approach you can use with filtering, not just sorting. So you can filter things out, then sort it, or you can sort it and then filter it. Typically, you filter before you sort so that you have less items to sort. Let's see, pull up my code. Sorry, I'm looking at my other screen, trying to get to the right spot. All right, so we have this data coming into this table. And we have a choice of what we want to be able to sort on. We've got 3 different columns. If we look here, we've got an ID, product, and quantity. It would probably make sense to start sorting on the product. And then maybe quantity after that. The IDs are kind of, I don't think we really need to sort on the IDs. It's more important to know what the product is or how many of that product you have. So let's start there. So we have our data. I'm going to mix this up just a little bit at the top with some syntax you're going to see a lot. So do you remember from the JavaScript weeks setting a default value in your parameters? Does everyone remember that? Setting default values? So at the top, I'm destructuring out my props. That's what this is. So this is equal to props. Right? That's what that's equal to. Since I know I'm getting a props object, I can destructure it and just pick the properties I want out of it. Saves you a little bit of typing, makes it a little cleaner, and you're going to see this everywhere anyway. So it's just getting used to it. It's going to be a good thing. So now that we're pulling our data out of props, because really that's the only thing we care about right now. That's the only thing that's really the table's even using. we're going to give it a default value. We'll just say empty array. If inventory doesn't pass anything, we don't want it to blow up, right? So if I take out that and I say in inventory, get rid of header and app. Let's say I don't pass any data whatsoever. Say I pass null. Not going to work. I can't iterate over null, right? Because my table component says, hey, that data, yeah, I want to map over that and create some rows. So in order to get around that, if I set a default, did I not save it? I leave it as undefined. Emptiness, I'll say undefined. All right, so at least it will render. It's an empty array, but at least it's going to render. It's not going to blow up at us. I'll just pass the data back in. All right, so now we have our data. It still works. All good there. Back to our table. Let's figure out how we can sort this thing. So we'll need to know a couple things. We'll need to know what column we're going to sort on, right? So we'll just add a new prop in here. We'll say sort column. And by default, we'll just say it's product. If we don't pass it one, we'll just use product as the default. We also need to know what order we're going to sort it in, ascending or descending. So we'll say sort order, and we'll just give it a default of, I guess, ascending. Everyone's got that so far? All right. So we're going to pull in, let me move my code down just a little bit. The green bar's out of the way. Probably can't see it on the stream, but definitely see it on the TV here. Okay, so we're going to pull in use state because we want to capture, well, I don't think we really need, yes, we will. Because we want to toggle between ascending and descending. Just by passing a value in from props, you won't be able to really toggle it. You need some sort of piece of state to know, well, what state it's in. So if you want to toggle it, you need some sort of way to manage that. So we're going to use state because it's simple, and all we need to do is switch it from ascending to descending. So we'll start with setting some state. We'll say order and set order. And our default is going to come from our props, which is sort order right here. You can use props as your default values in use state or use reducer, et cetera, et cetera. I could easily have just said ascending here, but since I'm already setting the default here, why not just use it?
I'm sorry, I missed what you said about how are you ordering them now?
Our default is to order it in ascending order.
So which products you have the most of?
Well, right now it's the product column. So that would be, if it's the product column, it would be alphabetically ascending, A, B, C, D. If it was quantity, we want to go.
And it knows that.
Yeah, yeah. So when it's the particular sort algorithm that we're going to create that'll let us know how to do that. All right, and we're going to use this. We're going to use a simple one. So for those just coming back, we're implementing the sort functionality into the table component. So for anyone that needs sorting functionality, this is one way to do it. We're gonna do a very simple approach, just to keep it simple. There are a lot of sort algorithms that are out there that you can even create yourself. They can get pretty complex. We're just gonna do ascending or descending order, whether it's text ascending alphabetically or numbers ascending or descending. And we're going to apply the sort on either the product column or the quantity column. So that's where we're at right now. We're inside our Byte app, and we're going between inventory.js and table.js. I also posted the link to the finished code base for this application in Slack. So if you want to take a look at it, like the entire application, it's there for you to look at. The only thing that's not implemented is the receiving inventory and updating the current inventory, because it relies on a JSON server. So you'd have to set that up locally to make it happen. But all the code to make it happen there is there. It's just waiting for a JSON server and a couple lines of code to be uncommented. But there are comments throughout the entire application, so you know what each piece is. Okay, so we're inside our table. And for those of you that just walked in, we're just setting some default values for props that we're going to be expecting. So we're setting a default value on data just to be an empty array. If we don't pass in a data prop, it will at least create an empty array to iterate over. Won't show anything, but at least it won't blow up. We're also going to import or implement a sort column. Which column do we want to sort on? By default, we'll just say the product column, because why not? And a sort order, we'll just start at ascending. And the next thing we did was we pulled in use state so that we'll be able to toggle between the different orders, either ascending or descending. Without this, the only way to change that order would be to send a new prop down. And since we want the table to manage this, we're going to manage that state within that table component. All right. In my my screen's getting really dim over here. Okay. All right, so we want to sort. So the next thing we're going to need to do is, well, here we've set state, a piece of state. So we have our order, a function to toggle that, to change that order. And our default value going into this piece of state here is just the sort order that we're already passing in as a prop. So that'll be our default. You can use props as your default values to set use state or use reducer state. It's just a value. All it is expecting some initial value. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to do a little condition to see if we should be sorting. We'll say if data.length is greater than 0, we'll probably want to implement sorting. And sort column exists, which is actually kind of redundant because it does, because we have a default value. But if we didn't have a default value, we'd want to check to see if that does exist. So I'll just leave it in there now for now so you can see the pattern. You'll also see that in the finished code as well. What do we want to do? We want to sort our data. Data equals, we'll just say sort object array, because we're going to sort an array of objects. So we'll just call this function. It's not yet created. We'll have to create that function. And what are the things that we need to know in order to be able to sort this thing? The first thing we need is we need to pass in our data. In fact, we'll just say, yeah, we'll keep it like this. The next thing we'll need to pass in is the column we want to sort on, and also the order. Because order is from here now, not just from props goes to here. And now that it's in our state, that'll be passed into here. All right, so we'll have to create this function. Yeah, let's do it here first, and then we'll move it out to the utility file. And we can export it from there. But let's just keep it all on the same screen so I seem to have issues toggling between screens today, so we'll keep it all in one spot. All right, pull my notes. So we have this function, and we've called it sort object array. We're expecting data, a column, and an order to come in. Just like this right here. All right. So one little check that you can do, and it's a good thing to check to make sure something is coming in, all the necessary pieces of data that are coming in, make sure they're actually there. Otherwise, return some sort of default value. So if a sort column or an order isn't passed in, probably shouldn't try to sort it. Okay? Oh, is it flaky? Oh, okay. All right, so we're just going to say, just a quick note, return sorted array only if a column is provided. Otherwise, return the data as is. Right? If you don't give me a column, I don't know what to sort on. That's a very necessary piece of data. Or the order for that matter. Right there. So we're going to return if I say not column, that means column is falsy, undefined is falsy, right? Null is falsy. Zero is actually falsy. So be careful with that one. So if you're looking to check to see if something is zero, actually check for that value. Just don't say truthy or falsy on it because zero is falsy according to JavaScript. So if the column doesn't exist, if this piece of data is falsy, we're just going to return the data. Otherwise, we're going to sort this thing. And the easiest way to sort an array is the sort method. Each array has it. And the way it works is it's going to do a comparison between each value as it iterates over. So A represents the current value, B represents the next value in the array. It's going to do a comparison between the two. So this is a callback function. Similar to how map or filter or reduce take a callback function, you're going to pass a callback function to sort. It has to know what to do, how to sort on it. And the first thing we want to check is not just our column, but we need to know what order we're going to be sorting this column in. So I'm just going to say, hey, this first object, we'll say object 1 is equal to, I'm going to put an expression. So if you remember from mathematical operations, your parentheses, your order of operations, right? So this operation is going to happen first, and then we're going to set that result inside of object 1 variable. So first we need to see, is the order ascending? Yes, we'll use A. Otherwise, we'll use B. And this will make a little sense as we go along, or more sense when we go along. So we need to know what's the first thing we're going to be comparing. Are we going to compare A first or B first? Are we going to go up or down? And then we'll say object 2, same thing, except B and A. So the first thing we'll say, okay, this first object we're going to do some comparison on. Are we going ascending? Okay, the first object is the first object. Otherwise, if we're descending, we'll swap the order. The same thing with B. If we're ascending, object 2 should be object 2. Otherwise, swap it with A. We're just doing the reverse logic. Because we're working with objects, right? Because our data is an array of objects. We just can't say, hey, is A greater than B or is A less than B? An object can't be greater or less than any other object. We need to work on the values, right? So that's where this column piece comes in. That column represents that property on the object for that row, right? So each row has an object that has ID, product, quantity. That's the piece of data we want to do the sort on, not the object itself. So that's why we pass in that column so we know which property we're going to be looking at inside these objects. Oh, my screen just went off. Sorry. That's because I'm not plugged in over here. Okay. How's my battery here? Okay, good. 69% should be good. All right, so now we can do our comparison. We want to say if object one, and how do we access? Well, there's two ways to access a property on an object. Does anyone remember the two different ways? The keys. How do we get that key? How do we tell it which key? What's dot? That's one way. If we know the exact key, right? If it was object1.product, that would work for product, but how could we use another column, right? We have to be able to do that dynamically. So what's the other way? Got it. And then we pass in our column because this variable column holds that key name, right? If we look back at down here, this sort column, by default, we're passing in product. So sort column is equal to product. That goes in as product. That will come into column as product, and it'll go into object.product, essentially, right? So we're going to check that, and we're going to see if that is greater than object2 at that property. If it is, we'll return 1. It means it's greater than it, so it should come first. If object1 column is less than object2 column, we want to return -1. It's less than it, so it comes next. But what if they're the same? How do we know? If it's greater than something, it's going to return this. If it's less than something, it's going to return this. But there's a third condition. What if they're equal? In that case, our sort function should just return 0. That'll tell JavaScript to say, hey, we don't need to change this order. They're fine. They're both the same value, so it doesn't really matter, right? So if is 1 greater than 2? No. So 1, depending on the order, 1 should either come first or second. And then as you go, is 2 is the next one is 2 is greater than 2? No, it's not less than 2. They're equal. So don't change the sort order. It doesn't matter, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of sort algorithms out there that you can look at. This is just one way to do it, right? There's a lot of them. In fact, I believe by default, if you just say sort and don't give it anything, there's even a default sort that happens. However, we can't default sort on objects. It doesn't know what to do, so that's why we have to do this. But if it was an array of strings or an array of numbers, I believe the default is to sort it ascending. And we can test that right here. So we'll say var array equals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so we have an array of numbers. If we say array.sort, so it's ascending. That's the default. And to test that out, add some more in here. And you can see, right? Whenever you're not sure of something, what I do is I just go into the console and I type it out, and I just see, did it work? Did it not work? If it works, great. Copy, paste it into my code base. Perfect. All right. Someone had a question on fetches, I believe. Like testing to see if a fetch works. You could just type it out right in your console. Is that you? Yeah, just, and I think that was the response that I gave.
Mhm.
So when I believe I mentioned that I use Scratch.js, which is really nice because I can just say, let's say, function get inventory. And that function is going to do the thing I want to do. So it would fetch, since we're on the topic of testing out in the console, I could do everything I need right here. And then we'll just say, just log it out. This is a great way to test that. I can run, I can run this. And all I have to do is call this get inventory function. And I'll see if it comes back. If that works, copy, paste into code, done, right? I don't have to type it out again. And the nice thing about Scratch is that you don't have to type it out over and over in your console, right? It's right there, right? So that's really nice. I use Scratch.js almost daily. Yep. It's just so handy because anything I write there, I can just run it. It's executed immediately in something that already knows how to parse JavaScript. The only thing I can't do in that there is like create React components and stuff like that. At least not with JSX. You can do it without JSX, but I'm not going to get into that part. I don't want to confuse anyone.
So is there a way, like my whole app right now is just built manually. Is there a way to like not lose stuff? Like would I have to like completely recode everything?
Are you intending
I
on?
use React, but then like I feel like it's just gonna be so much work to like redo the entire.
Depending on the logic, the markup's really easy, right? Because JSX mimics HTML. So it's a matter of copy paste. Maybe changing a couple property names like class should become class name. For should become HTML4. Right? There's a couple prop names that you'll need to change, but by and large, that markup will just work.
Then like with the CSS, like if I'm not using React or anything,
You have inline. You have like inline styles,
I have just like
a style sheet, so that'll just work. You just import that style sheet into your component, and it'll apply it.
in React for staff, I use staff file.
As long as the end result
It's just that.
is, if you compile it down to CSS, you can just import that CSS.
It's like normal.
There's even ways to use in Webpack. There's like a Babel loader that compiles it for you as part of the process. I don't know if Create React App implements it by default. I think there's an option to do it. But if you're okay with compiling it first and then just having your thing import it, it'll totally work. Yeah. It just has to be valid CSS.
Okay.
Yep. Then just import it into the right file or import it right at your app.js level. That way it'll flow into your entire app, especially if they're like global styles.
Some of them are, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
Like, very.
So just how in app.js here, is it app.js or index.js? Right here in my index.js file,
Oh,
I'm just importing the style sheet. Create React App will say, hey, I see you've got some styles and some components that match up. So it'll slam them together and yeah, just like that.
Just these, like ask how it's doing it. 'Cause I'm using script tags and then like some jQuery, but like using React and everything. I don't know, it just seems daunting, but not too bad. Like if I'm pretty much done with my app for Sunday, I think I can be really
Mm-hmm.
then I might try to like build it again using React. If it works, then I'll
If it's working this weekend, the way it is,
just leave it.
demo that.
I will.
But
like,
but if you want to
read,
if you want to recreate it in React,
if I have time.
if you have the time, go for it. But get it if you're already at the point where you're almost at a working state and you can demo it, just do that, right? Because whether it's built in React or HTML or Angular or Vue or whatever happens to be, if it works, right? So the end user doesn't care what language you coded it up in, right? Now there are some end users that are picky. They're generally developers that are really dead set at only using things of a certain nature, but by and large, no one really cares, right? You're the one that cares because you're using a language that you know how to create these things with, right? I mean, yes, people care, right? I'm not going to say no one cares.
No, I know.
Don't take that too literally, right? Your end user doesn't know what you used,
Right.
nor should they. They know that, hey, your product gets me what I need. I'm gonna use it. So if you get it to a working state, perfect. Yeah, keep it there, demo that, and then if you have the time, or even afterwards, even if there's not enough time to demo it, just work on it and convert it anyway.
Yeah.
That'll get you the experience. At least you have a working thing to compare it against, right? It's like this Byte app. I coded out the entire thing before I even started deciding what parts I was going to teach, right? Or how I was going to teach it. I need something there to say, hey, how can I reconstruct this in a way to teach it step by step that's not going to be totally convoluted, right? So have something to work against, absolutely. All right. By the way, we'll take a break at 7:30, maybe 15-minute break, good, just so we know our break times. All right, so now we have this sort algorithm. Let's see if it works. Let me go back to my notes. So in order to know if it's working, well, first of all, we have to call it. Looks like we already set up that call. Now we're just fulfilling that particular logic. Let's go back to our table. Does it look like it worked? Does anyone remember the order? Hiking boots was number 2. First try. So let's just check it. Let's just make sure. Comment that out. Yeah, so that you were right on the order. So now we're ordering ascending. Let's see if we can do descending. So if you remember, our sort column is a prop that's coming in. There's a default, or I'm sorry, sort order is a default of ascending. Let's say sort order descending. Now, technically, I could put anything in here, and it's not going to be equal to the text ASC, right? This is just a convention. And now hiking boots, normally later in the alphabet, now comes first. So we know our sort order is working. Let's just check to see if we can sort between columns. So now this is already sorted descending. So let's put it in ascending. So if we're going to sort on quantity descending, let's change both values, make sure they show up right. So we'll do, I could have just kept it that way. Sort column, we'll set to quantity. And now we're sorting on quantity. Just like that. Now let's toggle it between the two. Not done yet. We can have our cake and eat it too. Or data and sort it too. I don't know. It doesn't sound as exciting. I like that. All right, so how are we going to toggle this? We already have a piece of state set up with our order and a function to be able to change it. So now we just need to implement that function somewhere. Typically in table components, normally you'd click on the header to sort it or some sort of icon next to that header name to sort it. So we'll just click on the actual header name itself. That'll be like our button to actually change what our sort column is. And then we'll have to implement another way to change the sort order, right? So we'll start with changing which column we want to go on. So we'll set this back to ascending with product. Those are our defaults anyway. Cool. A couple ways we could do this. Let's take a look at what we have so far. We have a piece of state to know which sort order, so we should probably create something to know which column, right? So we'll say const column set column equals use state, and we'll use our default sort column prop coming in. And this will become column, because now we want to pass in this reference, not the prop, so we can change it later. Just make sure everything's still working. Looks like it is. Now let's change our headers into buttons. So this will allow actually any of these headers, if we wanted to be buttons. We'll just do product and quantity for now. So it's inside this TH. We'll set this equal to, now technically you can throw a click handler on almost anything. I'm just going to make this, I'll just make it a P tag. And this will have an on click. Oh, it doesn't like that. There we go. Now this kind of screwed up my styles. So maybe we'll make that a div. I'm just being picky, really. We could just, there we go. That's better. We'll keep it a div. Divs are clickable too. So when we click this thing, what do we want to do? We want to set column, right? In this case, we want to set it to product. But it's already product. So let's set quantity as well. And the quickest, so we can't really tell that this is clickable, right? So the nice thing about CSS, so we'll say, not class name, we'll say style, is we can visually show, because our CSS is our styles, our cursor, when hovering over this thing, we want it to be a pointer. That'll cue our user to know that, hey, this thing is clickable. Now this is the entire div here, but that's okay. This entire header column is clickable, right? But at least our user knows what they can click on. Oh, I could do display of inline block. Now it's just this. So block means it's going to take up all the horizontal space, kick everything else down to the next line. Inline block means it'll still display as a block, but now it can be in line with all other content on that line. So all we need to do is do my shortcut, my favorite shortcut in the world. We'll change this to quantity. Change this to quantity. So now let's check it out. Is it working? Well, our quantities are, unfortunately, are also ascending at the same as the alphabetical. So let's change some data around so we can clearly see this. Where do we need to go? We need to go back to our project. We'll get into byte data.json. Now, the nice thing about JSON server is if I make a change here, it automatically keeps serving it up. Like I don't have to restart my server. So I will change hiking boots to the least amount. Now I'll refresh my app. Okay, so now we can clearly see this is ascending, and now this is ascending. So we know it's working. So now let's toggle ascending or descending. Now that we can toggle the columns, let's do it with the order. All right. So in the byte example, what did I have there? I think I had a separate, this is, no, here. Oh, I put an icon, that's okay. This is how we're changing the sort. I did a little bit backwards, and this is how it changes the order. So what we can do is we can implement, you click the column name to change the column, but an icon next to it to change the sort order. We'll just do that. So next to our product, put another div. What's this? What's the shortcut? Hold on, there's a shortcut for, there it is. We can insert emojis, which, oh, that's right. I can't because I'm not on the latest version of, so I need to update my OS. I'm a little bit behind. So some of the functionality compared to the updates I've received doesn't match up. So I'll just use characters. But if you say on a Mac, if you say Control Command Space, and you can double click on an emoji and insert it as text to wherever your cursor is. So in case anyone wanted to know that little tidbit. So I know some people are like emoji freaks and they need them. So if you need them, command.
I ask a millennial every time I get one, like, what's this? And I think I always know either. I thought I've been stretching my nose at people when I've been blowing air.
Oh.
I thought I was going. Then I've been kissing.
Oh, so did you make a lot of new friends? I mean, so yeah, so Command Control Space on a Mac. For anyone that's using a PC, it's the Windows key and Windows and comma or Windows and period. Right. So since I don't have access to emojis, unfortunately, right now. Oh, actually, maybe I do. I could just copy this. There it is. Look at that. All right. Oh, I need the other one. So I've got two. I'm just going to save these off up here. Now they are valid characters, so you do have to comment them out if you put them in your code somewhere. All right, so in here we're going to have hey, GeoCities was great. That's how a lot of people started coding for the first time. Nothing wrong with that. Okay, so how are we going to do this? Well, first we need to know which of these icons to show based on what our current sort order is, right? So if our order equals ascending, ascending, then we should show ascending. Otherwise, descending. Oh, these are strings. Make sure they're valid characters. See, I forgot right away. They look special, but they're not. 4 little emojis. All right. So right now we have. Now this doesn't really look all that great. It's because our styles aren't there. So that's cool. All right. Another little trick to add white space is just render a blank string. That'll give you a little bit of space where you need it sometimes. These are nitpicky things. You could totally just put margins on something and it's fine too. But wherever I can show little tips and tricks, I'll try to do so. They may seem trivial now, but it helps sometimes. All right, so next thing, we'll go down to here. Do it for this one as well. But that's not right, right? We shouldn't be able to, we want to, if we look at, it just feels wrong, right? Looking at it. If I'm sorting on quantity, I want to see it here, right? If I'm sorting on product, I don't want to see it on quantity. Right? So there's one more piece of logic that needs to happen. And that is, we'll wrap this in parens. Oops, sorry, the whole thing. If order is equal to ascending, we're going to do this stuff. Also, before we even render that, if the sort column, it's column now. If column is equal to, we're going to have to do it a little bit different. Sorry. Got multiple logics here. Okay, yeah, we'll have to, so this is our success of our next piece of logic. If this is the right column to be sorting on, check the order. This will make more sense when I type it out. If the column is equal to product, that's our success. Otherwise, don't show anything, right? See how it went away? Now it's back. Now we just need to do the same thing for the other one. And just change this to quantity. So right now it's product, now it's quantity, right? Looks good. Forgot our spacing. All right. But now we need to be able to click on this little icon here. So we need to introduce another little element. So we'll split this out again. And these are going to be elements as well. We'll just, let's see how spans show up. We need something that's clickable. I can't just throw an on click on a string. Let's just see how that looks visually. Oh, that's right. I don't need the quotes anymore because it's in a span. So that's cool. It's in the same line, so that's good. We don't have to add any more styles. But we do need to add an on click. And then we need some logic in here. We need to set order. What do we need to set the order to? If it's this one, we're going to set it to the opposite, right? So it's already ascending. We want to set it to descending. And if it's descending already, we want to set it back to ascending, whatever the opposite is. These little, like, if it's this, do that. If it's not that, do this. Those little things you'll get caught up on those things, especially if it's nested stuff like this. There's been many times where you'll throw like if I say, not this, right? Sometimes by just throwing that exclamation point and reversing the whole logic kind of throws your brain for a loop. So if you ever get stuck in that situation, just take the exclamation point out, see if it makes sense one way, and then just throw the exclamation point and then reverse it. So it should be the same way the opposite. That stuff kind of gets me all the time, especially, like I said, when you've got nested logic like that. So don't worry, that trips up a lot of people. All right, so let's take a look at this. So now we've got our columns. Yay, and our sort order works too. So we just need to do the same thing for quantity. Again, shortcut. Change it to quantity. The rest can stay the same because it's just sort orders. And now there we go. We're sorting tables. And we're actually doing it in a slightly different way than the finished code base. So that's good, so you can see both ways. And I'm gonna, whatever we do tonight on this particular Byte app, I'll push up to the sandbox repo. So that at least you can compare the differences. See which one you like better if you're gonna use something like this. All right, so any questions on this? Because we're at break time. Is everyone good on sorting? Does that make sense? It's just a lot of logic. It's really all it is, a bunch of JavaScript functions. There's nothing really crazy about it. You can totally cheat and go to Stack Overflow and look for a sort algorithm, just paste it in if you really want to. Just type in this type of sort you want. You can usually find it. Or what I used to do was I used to practice writing these things out. Like I would have a solution somewhere. I'll just know it's the solution. I'll know it works. I'll set it off to the side. And like later in the day, I'll come back and I'll try to replicate it. Just try to figure out the logic. For the longest time, I would go into the console every morning and just type these things out until they were like ingrained in my head. That's probably why this came. That's probably why I didn't really screw up that thing. So that was good. I've typed these things out so many times. But again, that's muscle memory. Right? That's all that is. So after the break, we'll come back and we'll see what else we can talk about. All right, so we'll see everyone back at 7:45. All right, we'll see you then. Okay, so we're back. Yeah, code golf. That's another one.
That was a fun little thing.
If you want some challenges,
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Try
good
to
ones in
solve
there.
them, and then when you get good, try to figure out how to solve them in the least amount of error. They also make.
But then try to solve it in another language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they make code golf languages, which I think is kind of stupid. Don't try to do it in some weird obscure language. Like.
Yep.
Because they use Unicode character sets to represent like common like console out can be like just the smiley face emoji. So it's technically one character.
Well, yeah. Well, all right. So we won't worry about that. We'll get back to what we want to talk about, which is React. Okay. So we've got a couple people still out on break, but that's okay. All right, so we've implemented sorting into this table. Now we can sort by column and by order. So it's still doing ascending no matter what the column is, descending no matter what the column is, right? So we have all that functionality in there. Were there any other, other than that, the only other thing that we didn't implement was like getting the receiving the shipments, which is really just grabbing some data, doing a post over to, or a put command over to JSON server, and it just changes some values. So I'll leave that code in there for you to look at. In the meantime, we have about a half hour left. So I'll leave it open to anything that you guys want to know in regards to JavaScript, React in general. If there's any patterns that you think you want to explore or need a refresher on anything, whether it's state or props or conditional rendering, routing, anything. So I'll leave it open. Are they still here?
That's a great question.
I don't see any bags by their chairs. Okay.
That's still.
I mean, if you totally want to just work on your project, that's cool too. I'm available here for any help. I just want to know when we should basically end the stream. If there's no more questions, we could end the stream, or we can keep it open. Or if there's people still watching the stream that haven't thrown anything in a chat, we can take questions there too.
If you could just talk through the process of linking, and I asked you this yesterday, but just linking pages so that when you click on
With
things-
routing?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's create a new one. Let's create a completely new route.
Okay.
So what should this route be? Okay, that's fine. All right, so let me clear everything off the screen. And let's talk about creating a new route, where we would do it. Make sure everything is okay. So we'll start in our source. We'll go to components. If you remember, this application has all of our top level routing right here in the app.js file. So if we want to add a new route, we define another one inside the router. We give it a path. Let's say about. Maybe there's an about page for this application. We give it a component. We haven't defined that component yet, so I'm going to leave that blank for now. There's another thing you can do with routing. Actually, this is good because we've seen how we've used components as endpoints, and we'll do that too. But we can also just render something out. It doesn't have to be a component. It could just be some JSX. So instead of saying component, we'll say render. What do we want to render? This is a function that returns something to be rendered. Actually, this is this. This will be implicit return. And I could just say h1 about. Right, so this is going to render this element. That's all this is going to do. It's not a separate component. It's just some text. So the way this looks in our app, if we go to /about, And my styles are killing it. Hold on a second. Let's make sure that do I need that? I definitely need that. Thought so. It's the styles. Let's do this. It's probably hidden underneath the header. So we'll say style, margin top, maybe 200. Bring it down a little bit. There we go. There it is. It was hidden underneath the header. So this is what it's rendering, just this about. If I want to render a component, tell it which component I want to render. So if I go, I can make an about component. We'll just say about. Now I need to create it. So we'll create that in components. New file, about.js. Have a great night. We'll import React from React. We'll create our about component. And we'll do this. Now I know that the inventory page and the shipments page have this like kind of like white background to be able to see the text. So I'm just going to give it the name inventory page, not because it is the inventory page, but just because it's a style that I know will work for us for now. We could just pretend this says the about page. This will bring that text down below the header. So H1 about byte. We need to export it. So now that we've exported it, we can import it here. We go over here, we can see we're at the about. Now we're at home. If I type in about, now I'm at the about page. Right? So all I did was I defined a route. I gave it a path. I told it which component I want rendered on the screen. Component dictates how it's going to be viewed. Router dictates when it's going to be viewed. Right? Now we need to link to it. So we'll go over to our header. Since we have links in our header, we'll add a new link. And in this case, we'll enter a new nav item. Nav link. Call this about. Give it a reference to our link component. It's going to go to about. In our header, we could see about. Now we can navigate to it through that link. Now, if we didn't have this setup, like if we didn't have this React strap setup, this is how I would do it. I would just say link to equals about. That's my route. And some text. The difference between this and this is simply this bootstrap styling around it. So if we go over here, we can see it looks very different. It's just an anchor tag. That's all it is. But it still works. It still gets us to the place we need to go. These extra components are just there for that bootstrap styling. That's it. So if I put that back to the styling, I can see it's consistent with the rest of that header. So if you're going to implement that React strap header or bootstrap header, wrap the styles around it so everything looks consistent. All right. People like to use apps that look pretty. I don't know. They just do. I like to use apps that just get me the thing I need. But this is the front end world that we live in. All right. So any other questions on creating routes or linking to them? Or was that helpful? Right. And I'll make sure that this file gets uploaded to the sandbox too. Did you have a question, Tim? All right. Let's see. So we went over some things with routing. We went over the route parameters. What else? I showed render. Let's see. So that's the bulk of routing, really. It's just a matter of where those links or routes are defined. I won't get into it too much, but you can have nested routes. So you can have routes within routes. I don't think any of your capstone projects necessarily need that sort of nested structure. They're structured pretty flatly, so you shouldn't have any issues there. Just the standard routing or standard router with some routes in it should get you guys exactly where you need to be. Let's see. Other than that, any other questions? JavaScript functions. Does anyone want to take a peek at what this Webpack thing is? No? Okay.
Sorry.
Actually, well, I like what.
Oh, okay.
It might not be easy, so, but I would like to learn more.
Gotcha. Well, we'll leave it up to the students. Yeah.
Go for
But you
it.
guys,
So you want to see it?
Sure.
Okay.
Why not? What?
Yeah, that's okay.
that's up to you.
I'm good for
If you
that.
guys really want.
I mean, I'll definitely listen, but. don't
Okay.
expect to understand
So I'm going to open up.
me and my eyes.
I'm going to open up. Let's do that. Let me close out. First of all, let's get this code up to the repo. So you can see how this is done in case it's been a while. Let's see. So Control C
Can I just ask you
there.
one more question
Yep.
about that? So where would the about page go, like, as I've got it set up, like to my homepage or?
All right. So what we'll explain this a little closer then. So in app.js,
Yeah.
I have my router, I have my routes.
Yep.
My component that this route says I should be rendering is going to be rendered right here inside this div.
Okay.
Right, so wherever your route is defined, this route, think of it as when I go to /about, this route is going to be swapped with the about component
Okay.
in this place right here. So if I were to have an H1 tag right here that says hi, and this one says bye, about is going to be rendered between those two components.
Okay.
Just pretend it gets swapped out. That's all it's really doing. It's rendering that thing right there.
Okay. Now, where did you put your file? You put it in components.
Components, yep. They're all at the same level,
Okay.
except for index.js, which is one step outside of it. Now your app.js is one step outside of it, and that's fine. You can keep it there. I would just try to keep the rest of them in the same, like kind of co-located, right? So if they're all components, just keep the components with the components. That way you don't have to worry about all those
I have it set up by like home.
references.
I don't have it, like,
That's fine.
okay.
That's fine.
So put it in homepage.
Doesn't really matter. The folder name truly doesn't matter. It's a reference for you. Well, it would matter if you called it node modules.
Gotcha.
You might have some issues. You might have some issues there.
Gotcha.
Not getting your code up to GitHub. Yeah. Okay, so
I'm sure someday I'll look back on it and it'll all seem fun, but right now.
Springsteen.
Yes, the God.
all right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get all this code up to the sandbox. So right now, if I say, well, first of all, which project am I in? I'm in the client project. So what I want to do is I actually want to get out of that up to my main project folder. Oh, you know what I did actually? Was this is not the sandbox repo. This is the byte repo. So I need to put these changes inside my other repo. Because this is not the sandbox.
I can
This
tell
was a
you the
separate
link.
thing.
You gave it to me yesterday. So where are you putting it?
All right, so I need to go.
I
Let's figure.
really would like to avoid it.
So I was in, yes, careers and code sandbox. All right, so this is where I'm keeping the code. I'm gonna open up a new editor. Now the git commands I'm gonna issue inside this, I would typically issue inside this one. But since I want to make sure that you can find it in my folder on the sandbox, I'm just going to copy them over. So the things that we changed. Let's see. So with students, the last thing I uploaded, components, our app.js. We did touch app. So I'm going to copy and paste that in there. We also changed, we added about. So I'll add a new file called about.js and put that stuff in there. All right, what else did we change? We changed header. We changed, did we change home? We didn't touch home or index, inventory, product. Inventory we did, right? Because now we have the data going to our table with our default props. Oop, that was table. That wouldn't have worked. Inventory, we need table, has all that new sorting stuff in it, which we did not extract out to utilities file. Well, that's just as easy as cutting it and pasting it into another file and importing it from there. So that's okay. And there we go. So inside this window, inside this terminal, I'm inside, oops, the code sandbox. I'm going to say git status. I can see that I have some changes. We'll git add those changes. And I always do a status again because I like seeing all that green text. It's very satisfying to me to know that my changes will be committed. Hit commit. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do a git fetch from upstream down to master, which means my upstream repo, that hack upstream repo, is going to be fetched into my master branch. And then I will say git merge upstream with master. So now all those changes are merged together. I could say git, let's see, git status, everything's still there. That needs to be checked in because I'm ahead of the repo. So I'm going to say git commit. Let's say Thursday night code check in. And then I'll git push it up. So now if I go over to GitHub, I'll take a look at my version of the sandbox. It says this branch is one commit ahead of hack upstate master, right? Because I got all those changes, I committed mine. Upstream doesn't have my changes yet. I just uploaded it to my fork of hack upstate's code sandbox. So now all I have to do is issue a pull request, create that pull request. And then whoever is managing that particular repo can accept that pull request or reject it. Since I have the privileges to be able to accept it, I can just merge it right away. It's nice, but typically someone who's managing that project, it could be one person or many, would take a look at those changes and say, okay, should I merge this or should I not? That's the whole process. And that's recorded if you want to go back and watch it. All right. So we've got about 15 minutes left if anyone wants into any more questions or if you feel zapped.
Bingo.
Bingo. Okay. Any questions over here? Something for off the stream
Or no.
or just separate? Okay. Tim, you okay? You good?
I accomplished
All right.
database today, so I'm good.
So we'll end the stream now and then we'll see you guys next week. All right. Have a great night.